Hey everybody, welcome once again to the Real Results Show. If you are ready to dive in, type the word diet into the chat and we are going to send you our diet check record. So make sure that you put the word diet into the chat. Welcome to the Real Results Show, where every week we feature real health coaches and health practitioners getting real health results for their clients and for themselves. I am your host, Piper Gibson, Director of Course Enrollment for FDN. And this week I am super stoked to have with me Jenn Malecha, and we are going to talk about when diet isn't working. How are you, Jenn?
I'm fantastic. So good to be here with you again, Piper, and share some of the insights that I have gained through my own kind of like personal experience as an FDN and going through the course around diet. And then also what I'm seeing with my clients, because so many clients come to me and say, I've tried the paleo diet, I've tried Whole30, I've tried keto diet, I've tried this diet, I've tried that, I've tried carnivore, and it's not working for me. And they're always so baffled. So I can't wait to share some insights. And again, if you drop the word diet below, we'll give you some more info about this.
Yeah, thank you guys for joining us. We've got Jennifer and Thomas and Ezra. If you have questions throughout, definitely drop them. Let us know. Jenn and I will answer those for you.
Yeah.
Jenn, I would love to start with a little bit of background so that people really know where you're coming from and your own experience. So what prompted you to become an FDN?
Yeah, and before I do that, I just noticed that Thomas, I think you were trying to drop the word diet, but you said dive. So you got a little typo there, maybe autocorrect. So make sure you type in the word diet to get the additional info and stuff that we have for you today. So a little bit of info about me, like where I came from. I was a personal trainer before I became a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner, and diet was like my nemesis, essentially. Like, not only was I a trainer, but I also kind of like was struggling with maintaining my own weight. And so I actually had my degree in kinesiology and fitness, nutrition, and health. And I learned all about, dietary theories and calories and protein, carbs, and fats, and all these things in school. And even coming out of like school, I still struggled to maintain my weight. And, kind of the old methodology or approach to that is like, calories in versus calories out, right? Like that is the magic equation, allegedly, for people to lose weight. Well, I was really obsessive about calorie counting for a long period of time. I don't know if anybody ever remembers this, but like I worked at 24 Hour Fitness back in the day, and they had these things called a body bug, which is like this thing that you would wear on your arm. And it was the first kind of like calorie counting device out there in the market like this. And it would track your physical activity. It would tell you how many calories that you burned. And then based on like it had 4 different sensors, like it was able to calculate this stuff super accurately, supposedly. And then I would, you would track your food in their system. And I was always in a caloric deficit. Like I was always burning more than I was consuming. And yet I hardly ever lost weight. And I even struggled to like keep the weight off that, maintain my weight at a certain level. And so that was really frustrating. And so I even tried some extreme things, like as a personal trainer, like working in that industry, I got into fitness competitions. So I did a couple of different types of fitness competitions where I tried things like carb cycling, which is very similar to like intermittent fasting or like a ketogenic kind of diet approach now, like where you basically restrict carbohydrates for a certain number of days or period of time, and then you will carb load. And I did get some results from that, but nothing that stuck. Like anytime that I would stop doing some kind of diet, all the things would come back, right? And I noticed that my clients were basically struggling with the same exact things. And I was just baffled, and I felt awful as a trainer, not really being able to get them results. Like I was having them restrict their calories even more or exercise even more. And like, they were trying their hardest. And it really just started to make me wonder and question what I had learned, what was the science behind it. And I started looking for something else. And that's when I came across Reed Davis and FDN. And when I heard Reed speak for the very first time, it was like this huge light bulb that went off where I was like, oh my God, these are all of the missing pieces that nobody's really talking about. And when I heard Reed talk, I was like, I learned about some of this stuff like in my physiology class, but nobody dove into it in the concept of actual like optimal health or functional health or weight loss or disease prevention or reversal. And I was just totally fascinated. And I jumped right in. And that was back in 2012. And I am so grateful for that day because it changed my whole entire life. It really did, Piper. Like, it changed the way that I look at health and disease. It changed the way that I eat on so many levels, how I'm, able to like manage my weight now. Like, it was like a whole life overhaul. And now I get to use that information and that experience to help others figure it out for themselves too, which is super cool.
Yes, I hear you. It is a life changer, a game changer. It is amazing. So you have the word diet in quotes. And if any of you are joining us, just started watching, make sure to drop the word diet into the chat and we are going to send you some more information. Definitely, if questions, let us know. But Jen, I want you to kind of lay out, diets in quotes, but how does that work for FDNs?
Yeah. So, the thing is if you look up the definition of diet, the definition of diet is basically just food and drink that you regularly consume. But we have this negative connotation around diet. And I think diet is like used in so many ways. And most times that we often refer to it is like, I'm on a diet. So whether I'm on a paleo diet or I'm on a Whole30 diet or I'm on a keto diet or I'm on whatever diet you choose from, right? And so a diet can really be a lot of things. And when I was doing my dieting, it was all around like calorie restriction for a lot of the parts. So what I like to tell people, what I tell my clients, and this is what I learned through this experience through FDN, is that there's a difference between eating healthy and eating right for your body. Eating right for your body will incorporate healthy foods, but not every healthy food is right for your body. And this is where I see whatever kind of diet that you're on go wrong a lot of times. So just play along with me here, Piper. Like, I think that across the globe, would you say that we could all unanimously agree that like a banana is a healthy food, for example?
Yeah, most people would say that's a great food full of potassium.
Yeah, or spinach, right? Like, it's leafy green. And yes, they are healthy foods, but that doesn't mean that they are right for your body. So for example, with the banana, if you are somebody who's carbohydrate intolerant, or you have a food sensitivity to bananas, or you already have blood sugar regulation issues, or let's say you're metabolic type, like you oxidize bananas, you burn through that type of fuel too quickly, that banana is not right for you. It's a healthy food, but it's not right for you. And the same thing with something like spinach. If you have a food sensitivity to spinach, or if you have issues with oxalates, spinach is super high in oxalates. Or let's say you actually are on the other end of the spectrum and you do better off of fast burning fuel like carbohydrates, spinach may not be your best option. And so this was like, the best way for me to explain this is like when I went through the FDN course. And part of going through the course is that you get to do some of the tests on yourself. And one, I did a food sensitivity test and I found out that I was sensitive to some of my favorite things like avocados. Super sad. But I was eating avocados like all the time, which was then causing inflammation and dysfunction in my body, which then led to, when that stuff happens chronically over time, it leads to greater dysfunction, right? And then here was the other thing that I was doing where I was like, oh my God, this is my light bulb moment, is that as a trainer, and what is like as a nation we've been told to do? We've been told to eat lean meat, right? So I was eating boneless, skinless chicken breast was like my staple in my diet with broccoli. I mean, that's like every trainer's meal basically, or every fitness competitor out there. If you talk to them, it's so funny. Like, it's chicken and broccoli, which again are very healthy foods. But when I did the metabolic typing assessment, actually, I found out that my body does best off of dark meat chicken because of the purines and the fat content in there. And it actually doesn't do as great on, boneless, skinless, white meat chicken. And that's based on how I oxidize food and based on my parasympathetic, sympathetic balance in my body that's unique to me. So when I did that assessment and I made that adjustment, it was like instantly I had more energy. I had less pain in my body because the inflammation went down. Like, I felt less bloated because I was eating foods that were that my body could digest properly. So it was reducing digestive stress. And these are the same things, the same types of assessments and things that I have my clients go through that instantly result in improvement and changes with them. And so when we think about something like a paleo diet, for example, a paleo diet is an elimination diet, right? Like you're eliminating things like gluten, for example. But a paleo diet does not address, what kinds of, do you do better with white meat chicken or dark meat chicken? Or do you do better with pork or beef or whatever types of meats that it could be eating? Or do you, technically, like, fruits are part of the paleo diet, but maybe you don't tolerate fruit very well for various reasons. And so in working with clients, what I have found that works is actually doing what I call like a blended diet, doing something where we're testing specifically, what food sensitivities do you have? So that's part of the elimination piece of the diet. And then, as you know, Piper, we take them through a process of assessing their metabolic type, and then also doing some food journaling with our diet check record, in order to figure out what ratios of macronutrients are going to be right for their body. Because most dietary approaches out there do not address macronutrient ratios. The keto diet is the one that probably comes the closest, because keto is supposed, the traditional keto is under 20 grams of carbs. So it is managing basically macronutrients, but paleo, Whole30, a lot of those other diets out there do not even touch on macronutrients. It's more about elimination. And really to find the diet that works best for you is to look at both of those aspects, or that works best for your clients. Have you experienced that too in some of the people that you've worked with?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm really a firm believer, especially after going through the FDN certification courses, that there is no one size fits all diet. What's good for you may not be good for me. And so for me, like, I do better on red meat. And my personal doctor is a friend of mine, and when she'll look at my cholesterol, she's like, "What are you doing? This is like the most perfect cholesterol I've ever seen." And I go, "Well, to be honest, I eat a lot of red meat." And then I have to lay it out for her, like, "Well, this is how I figured it all out." It makes total sense to me. And I think that a lot of people that's why they struggle when it comes to diet.
Yeah. And my husband's a great example of this too. Like, he has made a lot of changes to his diet over the years, and as part of like being exposed to the work that I did. So when we were doing testing with him, like, we found out that he was insulin resistant and estrogen dominant, and he had been already on like a gluten-free diet, and we, eating organic, but still like stuck with his weight and like suffering from back pain. And when we finally did some of the testing and we saw that he was insulin resistant and estrogen dominant, that's when he actually shifted to a more keto style diet to like reduce carbohydrate intake, bump up his fats and moderate proteins. And he lost 40 pounds by doing that, and got rid of like 90% of his back pain.
Wow.
So then, we started to explore this a little bit more, and we did the food sensitivity testing on him. And with the food sensitivity testing, what we found was that he was sensitive to beef, and beef was the staple protein in his diet. So he cut out beef, and within a week, he lost 5 pounds within a week of cutting out beef. And he retests every once in a while to see if he can bring it back in, and it hasn't come back, in the green yet. But he's tried it a couple of times. Like, he'll consciously make a choice sometimes to eat beef because something on the menu like looks really good. And the only time that he ever has back pain is when he eats beef. So like literally he'll eat beef and the next day and he'll have back pain. Otherwise he's 100% back pain free. And so this is like, where this whole concept of a diet comes into play, right? And when the diet's like not working, what I like to say is it's not the diet that's not working. There's something else that's going on underneath the hood. So the other thing that I'll see in my practice is like people that have come in that have tried paleo, again, all these other things. And they're like, my friend lost 40 pounds on paleo, or my friend lost 40 pounds on keto or carnivore or Whole30 or whatever, but I haven't lost a single pound. Like, what is going on? Why isn't it working for me? I'm like, well, it's not that the diet's not working. There's something else bigger going on underneath the hood. that's rendering the diet ineffective. And when we do our testing that we do as FDNs on them, that's where I find like, adrenal dysfunction going on, like HPA axis dysfunction happening, excessive inflammation, chronic stress that's been going on. We find parasites, bacteria, yeast overgrowth that are affecting nutrient absorption, creating a ton of inflammation in the body. We find all kinds of things that are happening. And when that kind of stuff is happening in the body, yeah, your body is not going to be able to react properly or adequately to whatever dietary approach that you're trying to implement. And especially if your sleep is messed up, because as I say, is that we need to learn to value sleep more than we value diet and exercise. Because if you're not sleeping great, then that is going to cancel out. Basically, it cancels out all of your diet and exercise efforts. And so if you're trying to diet or do these different things and your clients are trying it, but they're still sleeping like crap, they're definitely not going to get the diet results. So it's not that the diet isn't working. That's what the perception is. It's that there's something else that's going on that's rendering it ineffective. And that could be anything from sleep to food sensitivities to stress, inflammation, adrenal dysfunction, gut bugs, and all those other kinds of things, which is why it's really important to look at the whole person and not just one disconnected piece at a time.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. And we have some more people that are joined us. So Jonathan, Scott, Mel, Buddy, Donna Sack, welcome. If you guys have any questions, make sure to let us know. Jen would love to answer some questions for you today.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. So what are some other ways that people can incorporate the testing into their own practices? Like health coaches that might be struggling.
Yeah. So I think this is so important. As we say, like, test, don't guess, right? So I was, as many of our clients are, and so did I experience this, but like spinning my wheels trying to figure out, like, taking a shot in the dark, like, let me try this diet, let me try this diet, let me try this thing, let me try this thing. And there's a lot of like energy and time and money that is wasted when you're going through that process of, trial and error, trying to figure it out. So you can cut to the chase and get right to the point when you do some of this functional lab testing. With the functional lab testing can basically be, that information is used as a guide in order to figure out what is right for either you or your clients. And so all health coaches can do this. Anybody can actually order a test these days. I mean, you can go, I just went and saw my hairstylist last week and she was like, oh, my whole family ordered the food sensitivity from Everlywell. And I was like, great, but that's actually not such a great test. So there's a couple of things that are wrong, like that happen, or a couple problems here is that, anybody can run a test, but not everybody knows what to do with the information once they get the test, because there's a lot of things that go into interpreting a test. Is, one is you don't want to necessarily interpret it off of the lab ranges, because those are just based on conventional ranges. So you want to know, like, and that's based off of, here's where it's okay to be, but we want to look at like what are optimal ranges, where is somebody going to feel their best, which we call like functional ranges as well too. And not everybody knows how to do that. Not every functional doctor or integrative doctor even really knows how to do that. I've seen a lot of misread, or misinterpreted results from clients that have come my way too with that. And I think that's just because there's there's not enough adequate training, or they don't know about FDN to go through our course and get the kind of training that's needed to do that. But then the other side of it is like the validity of the test. You're seeing a lot of different tests pop up out there, like these Everlywell things, or I think you can even get a food sensitivity test or something at like a CVS store now. And I'm like, let's really think about this, like who is running these tests? Like, it's basically just a money maker. And there's, to get valid results, like a blood spot, for example, is not going to give you as valid of results as an actual blood draw, especially for a food sensitivity test. So that's one of the things, like with FDN specifically, that I really appreciated and valued going through the course, is that, these are tried and true, valid, reliable tests that we are using, with our clients. And that was one of the things that kind of excited me when I came across FDN also, was just, One is that kind of like all of the experience, the clinical aspects behind it. Like FDN's been around since 2008. Reed's been doing this work since like the 90s, and he has the clinical experience to back up, what we're being taught. And then the other side of it is FDN is always vetting out, the tests and things that we're using. So it's a trusted source. And also that it was open to any health coach, professional, anybody that wants to get into this line of work or use it to heal themselves. Like it's available to anybody, because that was, kind of my concern, like coming out of college and like being a personal trainer. I was like, well, can I do this? Is this for me? And when I heard Reed talk and like learn more about FDN, I was like, oh yeah, this is open to anybody. So any of you health coaches out there, you can be doing this too. When you go through the training, and at the end you get certified and you get access to all of these lab tests that we're talking about. And you also learn how to interpret and correlate them properly back to the person to actually make the information useful and use it as a guide, basically.
Yeah, and that's one of the big questions. Just as you mentioned, people really ask, like, can I do this? How is it possible that you guys can access this lab testing? And what's great about FDN is Reed takes that clinical experience and he really teaches you how to use the FDN approach in your own backyard as a health coach. And so you really fill that gap between your client and their doctor.
Mm-hmm, exactly. And like, one of the things that I value so much too is the medical director program that we have. Like, I, as an FDN, like you basically will run the majority of your tests. You order them through our medical director program, and having access to over 60 different tests is incredibly helpful too. So I work with clients all over the world, and different tests are available in different areas. So like through the medical director program, I can get my hands on a food sensitivity test, pretty much anywhere in the world, basically. And then we have, when you do that, like where I've continued to learn more and more and more is that whenever I order a test through the medical director program, we always get a 30-minute consultation with a clinical advisor. And Whitney is one of my favorite clinical advisors. Like she's kind of like my go-to person. Anytime I order like a Cyrex Array 10 food sensitivity test, I always want to meet with Whitney because she's like wicked smart about the Cyrex test. And I just learned so much. So like in those sessions, it's really cool to be able to go over your client case, with one of the clinical advisors. Like you get to learn about the test, the interpretation of the test, how to correlate it back to the client based on, what's going on with them. And then you get like specific things like coming out of that, like, here's the things that you need to focus on with that client. Here's some supplements that would be helpful for them. Here's how you can change their diet or do these things. And that's really where I've received some of the biggest like pearls of wisdom, is like just by running the tests and doing those consults over and over again. And I've run hundreds of tests at this point in time, Piper, like hundreds. And I still use the clinical advisor consults every single time, because there's always things that are changing with the labs. Like they're constantly adding new markers or like updating their reference ranges, or as they get more data, like things just shift. And our clinical advisors are on top of all that information, so that I don't have to spend my time being on top of all that information. I can get into one of those 30-minute consults when I review a test with them, and I get everything that I need to know out of it.
Yeah, I utilize it all the time as well. If I get a GI map test going, I love to get on those clinical advisor calls, because they're mind blowing. You learn so much. And that's what's really awesome, is the GI map actually just had some things change, and then you can have somebody really guide you through that. You get that second set of eyes on there. They're going to look at your client's health history along with it. So you really get that second opinion.
Yeah. What was that? So when they drop the word diet, what is it that they're getting? Are they getting the diet check record? Is that what we said?
They are getting the diet check record when they put the word diet into the chat.
Awesome. So just to explain like the diet check record, you guys, this is what I was mentioning earlier, which was life-changing for me. And I use it with all of my clients. Is the diet check record is basically where you eat something, you write down what it is that you ate. And then within like 30 minutes to 2 hours after you ate that food, you check in with your body, and your body will be giving you signals. And there's like a checklist of responses that you look at. And based off of, you'll get positive responses from your body on the foods that you ate, and then you'll get negative responses. And based on the negative responses, it'll give you some indications for how to change, adjust the macronutrients. And I have my clients, this is one of the very first sessions that I do with all of my clients, having them use the diet check record. Like once we kind of run their food sensitivity test, so we know what things to eliminate. And once we do their metabolic typing assessment, so we get an idea of what are the ideal foods for them to be eating, then they start eating, and then they're using the diet check record to like monitor their body's responses. And that's where they really get to like dial in the macronutrient portion of it, so that they're eating the right macronutrient makeup for their body specifically. And when you've got your macronutrients dialed in from the diet check record, you'll know, because you should be able to go anywhere from 3 to 5 hours or more without feeling hungry and have like really good energy. You should be able to think clearly, should feel like satisfied and full, but not overly full. And so this is my like diet Bible basically. And it becomes my clients' diet Bibles too. It's like, it's the easiest way to tune into your body and figure out exactly what it needs so that it can function at its potential.
Yeah, I really love the diet check record as well. And one of the cool things about FDN is that when you go through the course, Reed gives you all of the tools and resources that you need to go out and be successful as a practitioner. So one of the things that you get, one of the tools, is this diet check record, but you get access to over 180 different forms, charts, graphs, waivers, health histories, like everything you need to go out and hit the ground running.
Yeah, and I've used so many of those tools time and time again. It's been so helpful that I didn't have to reinvent the wheel. It was kind of already there for me.
Well, and you've been an FDN for quite a long time. And so it really is a testament to how this process works, because you can use these same forms over and over for years and we're still getting these amazing results.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. Well, Jen, we are almost to the end of our fabulous chat today. Do you want to share with everybody who your ideal client is and how people who are watching might be able to get in touch with you?
Yeah, like my ideal client is a lot of what we described already today. Like I tend to work with busy health-minded professionals to help them get their hands on the right lab tests and resources so that they can find the missing pieces to their health puzzle and finally get back to feeling like themselves again, or for the very first time. And this diet component is definitely one of those missing pieces. It's like they've been spinning their wheels trying to figure out what diet's right for them. And we really get to zero in on it with some of the testing and help them figure that out. And people can reach out to me or follow me. I'm Holistic Health Boss, which is with a W, like Whole Foods. So Holistic Health Boss on Instagram or Facebook, or holistichealthboss.com.
Awesome. Jen, do you have a number one tip, tool, resource, piece of information that you want to share with everybody who's watching today?
Yeah, I think the biggest takeaway would be what I said kind of earlier was, if the diet's not working, it's not that the diet's not working, there's something else going on underneath the hood that's rendering it ineffective. So don't blame it on the diet, because a lot of these, especially like the paleo, Whole30, like those types of diets out there are actually really healthy and beneficial and good for a lot of people. But when they're not working, there's something else going on underneath the hood that needs to be explored. And so that's when you need to put on your health detective hat, run some tests, don't guess, and get to the bottom of it, find those missing pieces, and then you can modify the diet to customize it and personalize it for you or your client to make it work for you.
Awesome. I love that tip. Thank you, everybody who is watching. If you watch the replay, please drop the word diet into the chat, and we are going to get you that diet check record. Thank you, Jen, so much for joining me today. I think it was a fantastic conversation. And I will be back here next week, different guest, but you can join me every Wednesday for the Real Results Show. If you are ready to become a next level functional health coach, you can go to functionaldiagnosticnutrition.com/counselor, and you can book a call with one of the FDN course counselors, myself, Jess, or Kelly, and we would love to answer any questions you have about the course. So thank you again for joining me today, Jen.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and we will see everybody next week. Bye, everybody.
Bye.